All right, let's dive right into this epic explainer because today we are unpacking one of the absolute most intense, adrenaline pumping survival stories you're ever going to hear. We're exploring a narrative that completely flips the script on your typical hero's journey. It's a story packed with unimaginable loss, literally universe breaking power, and a protagonist who just flat out refuses to play by the rules. We're going to follow the chronological path of a man who didn't just beat the system, he shattered it into a million pieces. I want you to imagine something for a second. What happens when you spend your entire life beating a deadly survival game, only to find out the grand prize at the end is a total, complete lie? We're tracking our protagonist, Jaewon, on this brutal, reality-shattering journey. Imagine sacrificing everything. You're watching everyone you've ever loved perish over decades of agonizing, bloody battles, only to reach the finish line and realize it was all for absolutely nothing. How does a human mind even process that kind of trauma? Well, to understand exactly how Jaewon reacts to this ultimate betrayal, we really have to look at how his nightmare began. Section 1. The Nightmare Tower appears. So we have to start at ground zero. Out of nowhere, these massive structures called nightmare towers suddenly erupted in major cities all around the globe. And guys, this wasn't some slow, creeping invasion. It was an instantaneous, apocalyptic event. Monsters just poured from the towers, completely wiping out a third of humanity in the initial surge alone. The system controlling these towers offered a very simple, very cruel choice to the survivors. Become a walker, climb the tower to save the world, or just die. Humanity, completely desperate for any shred of hope, formed teams and began the grueling ascent. Now, early on, the walkers were faced with this ultimate temptation, the Stone of Return. It was this legendary item that everyone believed could split the timeline and send the user back to the past completely safe and sound. Facing impossible horrors every single day, a lot of walkers cracked. They abandoned the present using the stone, basically vanishing and leaving humanity's survival hanging by a very thin thread. But Jaewon and his team, the final squad known as Carpe Diem, they bravely chose to stay and fight. They refused to run away, taking the literal fate of the world onto their own shoulders. Section 2. The 100th Floor Betrayal. Let's fast forward through literally decades of the most grueling, lonely grind you can possibly imagine, straight to the absolute peak of the tower. Because Jaewon started climbing later than the others, he actually missed out on all the rare hidden skills and classes. So what does he do? He relies on just one basic move, the thrust. He evolves it by executing it tens of millions of times. Meanwhile, the tower is just a meat grinder. Companion by companion, his allies fall. He survives the 85th floor, snagging the Supreme Dragon Sword. He pushes through the 98th floor, facing countless crises. And then, on the 99th floor, he spends 10 agonizing years fighting the Ice Dragon, completely alone after his final friend dies. When he finally slays that beast, he is literally the only one left to step through the final door. He steps onto the 100th floor. He meets Beastlane, the demon master of the tower, fully expecting the ultimate reward. I mean, he's max level. He's killed millions of monsters. He expects to be greeted as the ultimate savior of humanity. But instead, Beastlane just laughs at him, congratulating him on simply finishing the tutorial. And then drops the most devastating twist imaginable. The entire tower? It was just a tutorial. The outside world was completely fine, and all his friends essentially killed themselves for absolutely nothing. Beastlane reveals that while decades passed for Jaewon inside the tower, only a single month passed on Earth. There was no actual apocalypse. Nobody died on the outside. And that Stone of Return everyone used? Yeah, it wasn't a time machine. It was a dream demon stone that trapped cowardly walkers in eternal, simulated fantasies. Jaewon's friends fought and died in a meaningless meat grinder, purely to entertain demonic cultivators who were just searching for strong souls to use in a much larger interdimensional game. Section 3. Breaking into Chaos. Driven by absolute, unadulterated rage, Jaewon outright rejects Beastlane's offer to join the real game in the Great Lands. He decides he's going to break the universe's rules entirely. The demon totally expects Jaewon to accept a sponsorship and move on to the cosmic stage. But Jaewon isn't interested in being someone's product. He wants to burn the whole store to the ground. To bypass all their complex magic, he evolved his basic thrust an unfathomable number of times. I'm talking 10 billion thrusts. He strikes with such absurd, unyielding repetition that the system's code literally cannot handle it. He isn't using a fancy magical skill. He has just honed a single, fundamental physical movement until it glitches reality itself. And with that, Beast Lane is completely obliterated. After that, he thrusts his way right through the literal ceiling of the Nightmare Tower and drops straight into Chaos. Chaos is this desolate afterlife realm meant for dead souls and broken code. You see, by tearing through the roof of the tutorial, he sequence breaks the universe and bypasses the promised Great Lands entirely, landing squarely in the garbage bin of dimensions. Down here, he encounters a mysterious redhead named Mino, and very quickly realizes that the rules of power in this place are completely, fundamentally different. Like I said, the rules are totally different. Most people here are adapters. They fight desperately using leftover system skills, constantly begging for scraps of spiritual power just to survive. But Jaiwan, he realizes he is on the path of the awakened. He is a walking bug in their software. His power isn't granted by some convenient menu screen or stats. It comes from his sheer, stubborn refusal to accept the world's false parameters. Section 4, The Path of Awakening. To survive in hardcore places like the massive settlement of Gorgon, Jaiwan has to master exactly how his willpower turns into world-breaking power. And this happens in 3 distinct stages. Stage 1 is doubt, realizing the system is a total lie. Stage 2 is understanding, actually perceiving the base particles and code that make up reality. And Stage 3, forgetting, is by far the most dangerous. This means erasing the identity the system forced upon you so you can manifest your own unique world. Jaiwan's progress through these stages makes him a terrifying anomaly to everyone around him. Because he is awakened, he effortlessly dominates Gorgon Castle. He just ignores their laws entirely and instantly masters impossible techniques. When guards try to arrest him with system-based chains, he shatters them just by flexing. When the legendary doctor shows him a secret, highly complex move called the Gel Cut, Jaiwan instantly mimics it perfectly. His spiritual corruption, which is this disease that plagues literally everyone else in Chaos, reads as an impossible 0. Within days, he effortlessly butchers the corrupt syndicates terrorizing the city and essentially crowns himself as Gorgon's new protector. Section 5. War Against the Monarchs. Of course, you can't just flip the cosmic game board without the game masters taking notice, right? The rulers of the system, the monarchs of the Great Lands, launch a massive invasion to crush Gorgon. And these aren't just strong fighters. They are transcendent beings who enforce the system's will. They bring a massive army to the gates of Gorgon, fully expecting to easily crush this rogue human and the puny adapters defending the city. But then, the monarchs realize something in sheer terror. This isn't just adaptation anymore. Jaiwan's thrusts are literally overwriting their system-based magic with his own unique reality. Even when they fuse together into a giant, godlike 5-eyed dragon, Jaiwan's blade doesn't just cut their flesh, it cuts their very concept. The monarchs realize way too late that Jaiwan isn't even using spiritual energy. He has reached inner surrender. His attacks literally force the physical space to conform to his own internal rules. He absolutely decimates the monarchs, leaving their invincible dragon form in pieces on the ground. Section 6. Destroying the System. But the greatest battle isn't actually against some giant dragon or cosmic king. It's the internal war Jaiwan fights in his own mind. As he pushes his power to the absolute breaking point, his soul begins to fragment. He falls into the hell of identity, forced to face deep emotional trauma and fragmented memories of a military betrayal he suffered back on Earth. It turns out, his hatred for oppressive structures started long before the towers ever appeared. And if he loses himself to these memories, he'll undergo ghoulification, basically turning into a mindless, wandering monster. But surviving the 8 gates of hell inside his own mind, he accepts his trauma and his path, solidifying an absolutely unbreakable ego. Mino actually acts as a tether inside his subconscious, witnessing him as a young boy fiercely fighting off the nightmares of adulthood. Jaiwan realizes he doesn't need to forget his past to destroy the system. He just needs to accept that his current existence is valid. He wakes up from this stronger than ever, his unique world now fully, beautifully realized. Before leaving Chaos to wage war on the Great Lands, he does something incredible. He leaves behind a newly constructed Nightmare Tower to help his allies train and awaken safely. He completely flips the script. The very structure that caused his lifelong trauma is rebuilt by his own hands, but this time it's a tool of empowerment. It manipulates time, allowing his friends in Gorgon to train for decades in just a matter of days, giving them a real fighting chance against the system. Which brings us to a massive, provocative question. He conquered the tower, and he conquered Chaos. But the real war against the gods is just getting started. Jaiwan has proven that a human, armed with nothing but doubt and an unstoppable thrust, can make the universe bleed. But as he steps through that narrow gate to bring the fight directly to the Great Lands, you really have to wonder, is it actually possible for one single man to kill a universe? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, diving into Jaiwan's incredible journey. Keep questioning the system, and I'll see you in the next one.